All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to another very exciting episode of the HHC podcast. I am your host, Jacob Moreno, and I'm here with my amazing brother, Chris. How you doing, Chris?
Morning, Jake. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, doing pretty good.
Same.
Uh, we, come up here, get up here to talk Spurs basketball at 10 a.m. Sadly, we couldn't get the other two brothers to get on this week, but it's all good. Hopefully, they'll be here next week. Shout out to Juan, shout out to Josh. But we do this podcast every Sunday at 10 a.m. You can catch us live on all four of the platforms, which is Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. All of which we will go live right there at 10. But if you cannot catch us while we're live, the VODs will be up for you to watch any part of the episode that you want right after the video is done. Make sure you do follow us on Twitter at Heroes Half Court, where we do talk Spurs basketball on the near daily, and we do love having the interaction with the Spurs Twitterverse. Please, if you feel like you have anything that you want to talk about Spurs basketball, reach out. We love the conversation. With that, we had a pretty miserable week of basketball. The San Antonio Spurs went 1-3 on the week, playing against the Phoenix Suns on Sunday, losing 110 to 115. Then the most detrimental loss, which is playing against Golden State on Tuesday, losing 124 to 120. Then on Thursday, playing against the Miami Heat, and losing 112 to 95. And then finally winning against Houston 106 to 131. So, Chris, this week was like I said, I would say it was pretty miserable. It wasn't a fun week to be a Spurs fan. You can't really get too mad about losing to Miami, about losing to Phoenix, but it's that Golden State one that kind of hurts the most, right?
I guess if you're saying most, sure, sure. I kind of grouped the whole week, or I guess I think about the week as just the idea of we were missing guys all week. I mean, we were without our two guys twice, I think, this week, right? So I mean, or I don't know. I think just being shorthanded most of the week is kind of how I
Yeah.
characterize it. So I know that Spurs Twitter and the internet kind of had a little bit of a fit that night that they lost to Golden State, and I guess rightfully so. They choked away a lead. They went multiple minutes without scoring the ball. They looked very uncomfortable. And on top of that, it's something that we've seen before. We've seen us lose leads before. So I get the frustration. I understand the frustration. I'm not as much on the it's the worst loss of the season kind of talk that people are having. Strictly from the point of view of we lost two centers. I mean, in my point of view, it's like it's just night and day in terms of like the things that we were allowed to do or tried to do with and without a center, and part of that's on Pop, right? You got Drew Eubanks sitting on the bench, not playing. Thad Young didn't play. We got a little bit of Kata Bates as our big, but I mean, just not having. We had zero pick and roll option. We had zero pick. You know what I mean? Like we had none of that. So, I'm not too worried. But I mean, again, overall, yeah, it was a down week. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I think the biggest thing when it comes to losing to Golden State is that that's the game that they're out four All-Stars. You know, four All-Stars plus a starter level player that's not having a bad season. So that's like quite literally like you're playing against the bench unit of Golden State plus the 13, 14, 15 guys.
So I get that, but let me just kind of get my. Well, that's not what I wanted. Let me get the games up in front of me so I can kind of see it again. Because this, like what you said, again, agreed on the fact that it's like they're shorthanded, we should be able to take care of business, kind of thing. But if I'm looking at this week, and now I have it. Okay, so if I'm looking at this week and we go up against the Suns and we go in there without, who do we not play with? No center again, right? No Pirtle. Let me see. Do we have so no Pirtle, no Dejounte Murray against Phoenix, and it's a close game. Uh, we have a disappointing loss against the Golden State with their shorthanded team. Then we go in shorthanded and hold it competitive for a while against Miami. You know what I mean? So it's like I can't. I don't. And yeah, granted, our shorthanded guys didn't pull out the win like Golden State shorthanded people pulled out the win. I understand the difference, but I guess it's just like it's closer than it's closer to those other games than like I guess in my eyes, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I'm not like too worried about it. And again, it's like it's the type of players that you're missing. You know what I mean? We've seen before. This is not the first time that we've lost Jakob, and it tank our team in terms from a position standpoint. You know what I mean? So it's like we have the depth to have a competitive game with Dejounte Murray sitting out because we have a lot of guys who can have the ball. We don't have a lot of Jakob. So that I guess again that's just why it's not hurting me as much because you got no center, you're gonna struggle. We've seen it before, and it showed again. You know what I mean? And I was watching the Golden State game on the Bay Area commentators or whatever, and they were kind of flabbergasted by it too. They weren't really talking the talk of like, oh, this is what the Spurs have done in the past. They've choked away some of these leads. They were like, they couldn't believe that their guys were playing so well and that our guys, were missing shots, and they were like, they cannot hit anything, and are we gonna do this? And they were like, they couldn't even really believe what was going on.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just didn't hit me as hard because it's like all the things that we did with Jakob in the first half was working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're building a lead, running our offense one way. And I was actually, man, it's funny because people are saying worst loss of the season, question mark. And I was already on the train of saying this was when I thought we were going to continue on to win the game. And also while Jakob was still playing, I was thinking in my head, like, is this going to be one of our best wins of the season? Because we were building a lead with Yak. And then when he was sitting, we had like, I think it was Keita, but it was not even who was in the post. It was like our offensive mentality while Yak was on the bench. We were having success that way too. And I was like, okay, so we're kind of finding like two different ways to win. Our bench unit is a different kind of look, but we're finding success. Our starters have a different look, and that's what we've seen that years ago with the Timmy Tony kind of thing, where they're a style of of play on the starters, but it works. Manu leads the bench in a different way, but it works. So I was so happy with how that game was going until we lose both of our players to injury. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. Like I'm just not. It just wasn't hurting me as much.
No, you bring up a good point with that. Like, it's not like it's you like. I don't think it was like the worst loss in the for the year, because I feel like we've definitely had games like, to me, losing to Houston was one of those games earlier this year that I'm like, like that was a terrible loss. That's a game that we should have had. Like, it doesn't even matter how the first three quarters are going. That fourth quarter should not have been the way that it was going, right?
Yeah.
But like this game, it was like you said, it was just like, I think we did get thrown off by the fact that our two bigs got injured, and we just kind of couldn't really like keep up with it at that point, and
Yeah. And who's to say, like, in my opinion, if you put Drew Eubanks out there and Drew Eubanks is struggling and we still can't get anything going, and we just try to have a balanced attack, but I mean, look at the closers that we had out there. We had all five of our small wings out there. It was not good. And I know that it's exciting when you see it. Like, for a split second, I was like, dang, Devin and KJ and Lonnie and Derek and like all of those guys out there at once. I was like, that's interesting. But it took me like 12 seconds before I was like, I don't like this.
and I definitely think, I don't know. The thing with me is, like, I feel like that lineup still could work. It was literally just the fact that like those guys just couldn't hit a shot for the life of them. No one on that court could hit a shot. And like the second Lonnie started to hit a shot, they completely trapped him. They completely started to just throw him off of his game, and then like
or his drives. They were eating his drives up because we have zero. We have no pick and roll option to give the ball up. We have no option of throwing the ball up off the glass and having somebody go get it. We had none of it. So they could just collapse on us.
That also comes from a thing where it's like our guys need to get better at that off-ball movement. Like, if you're playing 5 out like that, then you have like, that's emotion. You can't.
True. But again, it's just like, okay, think about a Jakob where he's at on the court. He's going to pick. He's going to roll into an area. And with a guy like Jakob, you don't need to like be 1,000,000% accurate. You throw it up into this range, and he's big enough to go and get the ball, right? He occupies like a space up here. And us with our younger guys, with our smaller guys, like you just don't have the option. I can't give that pick and roll, and I can't throw that ball just up here. I got to find the guy through the defense now. You know what I mean? So it was just an overall different look. I mean, I meant to say something else about what you were saying about Lonnie shooting. If it comes up, it comes up. Oh, well, sorry, you were talking about like us just not being able to make a shot, which is true. If we would have been hitting, that puts pressure on their defense that maybe now they're not equipped to handle because now they're maybe a little too slow or big or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, how many times in the fourth quarter did you see Lonnie Walker trying to keep Kuminga off the glass? It's like, bro, that's not a recipe for success. You know what I mean? So it was just like, again, like when I saw stuff like that happen more than one time, it was obvious that that's the personnel we were running with, and it's shorthanded, but it's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to, like, it's only so much you can do. And so I can have an argument of why I think it's one of the worst losses from the point of view of why the heck is Coach Pop not putting out any size for a whole quarter. You know what I mean? I understand if it's maybe like the last like 4 or 5 minutes of the game, but we went the whole fourth quarter plus probably with undersized. You know what I mean? So, it's like when rebounding is such a fundamental part of the game, such like a pillar of the game, and you're just giving that up for a whole quarter, you're gonna have bad things happen, or you're gonna have to work harder than the other team. So that cushion that you built, it's gonna go away. And they what do they need? They needed like the last 3 minutes is when they overtook us or something like that, right? In the last 3 or 4. So
yeah,
no. It was a bad loss. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was a bad loss, but I mean, it just wasn't. I wasn't losing sleep over it like it felt like a lot of people were.
Yeah, no, I got you. And to add to your little pop point, like I think I've always been one of the biggest advocates for, if the lineup isn't working in the moment, switch it, change it, do something. You know what I mean? Like don't let a stagnating bad lineup just sit there, because there's no reason for those 5 guys to be out there on the floor if they're playing bad. If they're not playing good at all, then switch it up, change it up, especially because like the trajectory is going to be that we're going to lose anyway. So change something. You know?
And I don't know, the coaching staff might be thinking a little bit long term, right? And they're like, well, we got this next couple games coming up. Let's hold back on sending out Thad or Drew, or I don't know. I mean,
even Juancho though, like it's like that's like one of the things for me where it's like even Juancho would have been something, because it's like I'm not telling you he would have affected the game too much, but he is an offensive oriented player. That is what his style of game is. They don't ask Juancho Hernan-Gomez to go get us defensive stops. They ask him to, work yourself around the rim, try to get an offensive board, and be have the size when you need the size.
Yeah, and K Bates is probably similar in terms of what they're going to ask him to do, and he did okay. I just don't think, I can't remember. I just don't think that they kept him out there for like the longest time. I think at some point we kind of went away from Keita Bates being our main big during that stretch.
Yeah.
So they were searching a little bit, and maybe Keita Bates was the test, and then they're like, no, it's not going to work with Keita Bates, and if it's not going to work with Keita Bates, who's been here and understands this, and it's not going to work with Juancho, it's not going to work with, I don't know, maybe that's where their head was at, but it was all right. I will say, just since we're kind of still talking about the 4 losses for the week, the Houston game, like I was proud of how they executed. I like the fact that we are on the good side of that season series now. I think we should have beat them the last time. So to have 2 like resounding wins against them, like that was good for my spirit a little bit. Also, like I think it was you, right, who had said like you just don't like Houston, can't root for Houston. And Josh was saying, like, now that Harden's gone, now that CP's gone, it's a little bit easier. Like, I don't really care about him as much. I would be down for Dejounte Murray, Porter Jr., like, duel 4 times a year. You know what I mean? Like, I still want us to beat them every time, but I just think that it's going to be fun to watch those two kind of – they got something, you can see, like, obviously they know each other or whatever, but when they go at each other, it's just really fun. So,
Yeah,
It does kind of give me a little bit more hope for like just what the matchups are going to look like for those teams moving forward.
for sure, for sure. The rivalries are definitely not the thing that I hate about it. I love having a rivalry with Houston, with OKC, yeah, whatever, OKC, New Orleans, Memphis,
Yeah, Dallas,
Dallas.
all the divisions are. Yeah, I love the
Yeah.
division rivalries too.
Um, it's always that kind of stuff. Like I enjoy the rivalries, but I'll just never be like if Houston. I really doubt Houston's gonna succeed faster than we are. I think they started their rebuild just a little bit. Like where we are in our rebuild is just a little bit ahead of where they are because they still have things that they need to like push. And
Yeah.
they've kind of backtracked a little bit because like things where it's like they had Jared Allen, but they traded him to Cleveland.
Yeah, or even just like the idea of how it felt like Christian Wood was a guy that they were going to keep around, and not necessarily build around, but keep around, and let him kind of flourish there and build his game there. And now it even feels like some of those guys are a little bit like sour on Houston. Not to mention they still got John Wall to deal with.
exactly. But I did see a report that said like excuse me, sorry, that James Harden is like welcoming the idea or Houston is like very much ready to give James Harden back the keys and be like, yo, come back to Houston, James Harden. And I don't know, man.
The only reason that I would like a James Harden back to Houston is I hope it would fuel. Let's get James Harden back to Houston. Let's get Milwaukee gets a repeat championship or I should say Giannis gets a repeat championship in Milwaukee. He feels content with the work he's put in, and then he's like, you know what, let me just go and beat up on James Harden again and moves to San Antonio.
Yeah, there we go. See, that's perfect, right? Giannis to San Antonio. It's
I
gonna
was,
happen.
oh man, I know this was like 3 years ago or whatever. I was like, all right, we can feel this James Harden, Giannis, bickering back and forth start to brew up. I was like, let's bring Giannis to San Antonio and have them just have like that would be a fun like I don't like you kind of rivalry. God, that
Hmm.
would turn into like 10 years of Spurs Rockets like just animosity. It would be awesome.
No kidding. No kidding. Um, but we're talking about the Houston game, and there's definitely one big white elephant. There's definitely one big elephant in the room. Sorry, I'm thinking a little Christmas time. Um, one big elephant in the room, and that is our man Zach Collins. We
Yeah. Yes.
we finally got to see some Zach Collins play, and I was not disappointed. How about you, Chris?
Yeah. I've been talking size all year for multiple years. I've been talking the importance of size, right? So, it's been a long time waiting for this guy to come back, man. I wrote it in my notes, and I guess like the best way that I can, say it is just that he perfectly played relief minutes for Jakob. Obviously, he did a little bit of everything. While he was on the court, and good for him because he's probably out there searching for a little bit of everything and trying to find rhythm and everything. I bet your brain is just like in a million different directions, and at the same time you're trying to keep it in one direction, which is like let's just get out there and feel good and blah blah blah. You're trying to keep it simple, but I bet he's trying to work on it all. But the biggest thing that I just enjoyed was the fact that you could see Jakob come off the bench after having a little moment of being of resting and not feel like you were just bleeding for the past 4 or 5 minutes. So like I couldn't speak too much to the specifics. I liked his patience in the paint. A few times there was a couple times where he got a little clumsy, like he had the ball and I think he was maybe just trying to put weight on somebody and they backed off or something because he hit the ground a few times. But all of the basketball side of stuff I feel like is going to get better and easier and everything. I was just from the standpoint of our depth, it was like such a good feeling. And I understand it's against the Rockets, but just such a good feeling to be able to sit your center, feel like you still have some resemblance of defense out there and something that that's going to matter. And man, I was just overall very pleased. I'm excited for this week to see him play more.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, it's definitely one of those things. I mean, you said like granted it's against Houston. I think it doesn't matter who we're playing against because of like in a sense like the bench side of it. Um, Personally, for me, I always like the idea of having a more offensive-minded, offensive-centered big being your backup big, especially if your starting big is the guy like Jakob and Rudy Gobert,
Mhm.
because you start off the game defending their best big. You start off the game to lock down their best big, but then when they have to bring out their secondary guy, well then now we can kind of take advantage of the fact that he's not going to be nearly as good as the starter.
Yeah, or things that we've seen before, which is we both sit our starting center, but then they bring theirs out before we bring Yak out, and then it creates a mismatch for X amount of minutes, and so
Yeah.
like that's the stuff that we're talking about, like how our record our record is not as good as like we are, and this and that, and it's like, well, what are the things that are what's separating how we are as a team and what our record is? And it's little things like that. I mean, how many games have we found that are so close? It's little things that sway those close games in our favor. So like those are the improvements that I like to see over the course of the year or in the offseason or whatever. Those are the incremental things that make a big difference for me.
Yeah, no, and I mean, to get back to Zach, like it was just very, very nice to just see a guy be able to contribute like that well, especially in his first game back. I'm not asking him to do too much. He's coming off of how many days, like over 500 days of
Yeah, it
no
was similar. Yeah,
basketball.
yeah,
And you can't ask a guy to come back and be what he was and more, but like it was good to just see what was out there.
yeah,
um like I said, I'm not expecting him to be our like another defensive big that's like shot blocking just as much as Jakob is, but like you said, a 7-footer is a 7-footer. That's size. That's good size that if he just knows how to use his body, just puts it in the right position, you know, we're already that much ahead of the game
yeah.
moving
And
forward.
and like what you were saying about Golden State, of like we weren't hitting in the shot, so it doesn't put any pressure on the defense to change anything. Well, he does. I mean, or at least he'll have the aggressiveness to be able to take pick and pops and to take some threes. And I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little disappointed because I'll try to find some time maybe today to rewatch the third quarter of the Houston game, which is kind of when we blew it up a little bit. I miss that particular quarter. I was watching the first half, but at the same time I'm trying to unpack a lot of stuff at here at this new house, and so during halftime I got up, started doing a bunch of stuff, and before I sat down, or by the time I got back to my phone, I was watching the game on my phone. By the time I got back to it, it was like 60 something to like almost 90. It was like 89. I was like, what the heck? Like, so coupling that, I want to go back and see like some of Collins specifically of third quarter minutes, but he had said after the game, like, I was a little nervous trying to get my rhythm and my timing back at the beginning, but I settled down in the second half. So I want to see, I want to go back and see some of that third quarter because it definitely looks like it. I saw some of the highlights, that they showed for him, but overall, man, I mean, those are the things that are going to help us. We finally get a chance to see, imagine everybody healthy now. Imagine a few minor tweaks with how we deal with like the Wancho, Thaddeus area of our roster. And then on top of that, hopefully you live in a world where Lonnie's making shots, KJ's making shots, Devin's making shots. Like, you feel better.
Mm-hmm. So before I get into this next thing, because Chris, you're talking about rosters, so there's one thing that's very apparent that's coming up, and that's the trade deadline. But before I do get into that, just because Chris had just started talking about those shots, I don't have the image up here for today, but there is a tweet that talks about the clutch point or like our
Oh, I
clutch field
saw it.
goals,
It was bad.
and like to me, the biggest thing is that Devin Vassell is 0 for 11 in the clutch. And that's just one thing that I mean, I can't get too mad for him. Like, I mean, we want to see those shots go down in the clutch. Obviously, no one doesn't want to see any of those guys be able to knock down. I think it was actually specifically threes in the clutch, right? Um,
I think so. I think so.
but You
Yeah,
know,
because
like
the general numbers for everybody was like 1 for 5, 1 for
yeah.
7 or 8, or yeah.
And so you know, Devin Vassell being 0 for 11 from 3 in the clutch. It's just like one of those things where, to me, that's like, I don't really like talk about Devin's faults, but that's right there. You know, that's just the thing where it's like he's growing, he's young. You know, like you're like, it's like those things where I feel like his bag is like really good. Like it's like something that like there's just not like, I feel like it's something that can go miles ahead of a lot of players in today's NBA. But like, I mean, he's just young. He's just young, so he just hasn't gotten it put together all the way, you know. Um, and it's just one of those stats that, like, right now I see it. It's his second year. I really hope 3 years time, maybe 4 years time, we're looking at clutch three point percentages, and Devin Vassell's at like 9 of 9. You know what I mean? And like, I just hope that like it's like going crazy, you know, like he's like doing, you know, we're seeing the progression, we're seeing that kind of
And,
stuff.
and you do like the willingness to take the shot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? From Devin, like all that stuff. It's just it'll come, and it can be there. I mean, think about like because Keldon Johnson, I think his numbers weren't very good on that chart either. But I mean, Keldon Johnson, man, I am so impressed with that kid. I am so impressed with that kid. Like and I know we're still kind of talking about like last week, but that's fine. KJ, obviously his shooting has taken a big leap, and the fact that it's been consistent now for a while, it's awesome. But starting to see like this week, I saw a lot of Rudy Gay and Keldon Johnson, putting people on his back, even if they had a little bit more size on him, continuing to just kind of push back, like as if he's posting him up, but then hit a little turnaround jumper or a turnaround hook or something, and like that's the stuff that I definitely would see a Rudy Gay do from that position of the floor, and feel calm about it too. Like, man, I was just very impressed with Keldon this week.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a reason why I named last week's episode Keldon
I
Big
was
Body
I
Johnson.
was curious. I figured that because he had good showings again.
Yeah, and I'll you know, be the first person to just like I'm a little upset I didn't like really acknowledge him in the podcast last week, but still, like, I mean, he's been playing good. I feel like they really shouldn't, you know, sometimes it's nice to acknowledge that kind of stuff, but like, like, I feel like Keldon's kind of been on this nice tear, like, you know, like from the start that his 3 point percentages started to shoot up, you know,
Yeah.
like you're just seeing everything slowly come together this year. Because at the beginning of the year, I don't know how many people were like, "That's it, trade Keldon, we're done." You know, like no more Keldon. He's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like,
and it's a good testament of like, I mean, not to say that they were justified in saying trade him or whatever, but you can see that the frustrations people were feeling is because the things he was doing looked like the things we've seen last year. So it's like, okay, you went to the Olympics, there's an off-season period, we want to see something new and different, and we're seeing old and the same. But now, like, it looks different, right? It looks
yeah,
different. So yeah, man, I was very pleased, or I'm just pleased with it, with his continuing to move forward. That man, can you imagine, like, if he starts to feel that confident, and he's like, he becomes more of like that 6 man first hitter off the bench, you know what I mean? Like, assuming, you know, depending on where our roster moves, and you know, for
yeah.
next year or whatever.
No, and Juan's obviously not here on the pod this week, but he was definitely in everybody's ear talking about how he thinks if KJ was on the bench, he'd just be that much better. Like, all that size on the bench to just kill other people's wings. Like,
Yeah,
that's like,
and size mix with the poise. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And that's kind of what separates a lot of bench units, is you have energy and all that kind of stuff. But if you can bring a little bit of that that starter's calm to, you know, to that second unit, it can be dangerous. Because you learn how to dictate the game. You learn how to dictate the game, but you do it from the from the bench point of view, it's different because you're not coming in at a 0-0 matchup where you have to set up things. You're coming in where either you're trying to protect the lead, which if you have poise and you can control tempo and control pace, and you already have a lead when you show up on the court, your job is gravy. Or, okay, I need to have some poise in order just not to go win the game, but just to start knocking this lead down and start to dig into it a little bit or whatever. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
agree. Depending on what we do in the offseason of bolstering our roster, which could come at that 4 position, that not necessarily the 3 position. But if we bolster the 4, it kind of we don't need KJ as much as the 4. Maybe we do find him more minutes at the 3 on the second unit.
For sure. It's like, I mean, like I definitely think that what we're seeing from Kelton has just been fantastic this year.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I didn't really think about because it actually is coming up. We obviously we're all talking about All-Star Weekend and how Dejounte Murray got snubbed, right? It's like the biggest thing so far for Spurs Twitter within these last couple days. Which shout out to Draymond, shout out to Ernie, because both they're all advocating for him to be that replacement for Draymond.
CJ McCollum also
yeah.
So
CJ on his podcast talking about how Dejounte should be an all-star, and I mean, man, like it is good to see. It's great to see the love that DJ gets. But what I was gonna bring up is like Kelton Johnson's been doing really good from 3. What if we see a Kelton Johnson invitation to the 3-point contest? Man,
Can you imagine him like last year shooting those big old like rainbow threes?
Yeah,
That'd be hilarious.
I don't know. I love Kelton's rainbow threes. I feel like that was like one of the things that, like, whenever the ball would just go off the screen and come back in, I was like, wow, that's a nice shot.
You know what? Kelton would be a fun like person to have around at the All-Star weekend, just sitting there cracking jokes, and he's gonna be looking at the camera doing his thing and everything like that. So that could be an easy and his numbers, his percentages merit it too. That could be an easy, good way to kind of get a Spurs player in just to have our faces out in the general NBA audience. It's important as much as we love to fly under the radar, to have that mentality of like, well, we don't really get a lot of respect. Like sometimes we just need to be, we got to put ourselves up in there, right?
Exactly.
DJ said that, like, we got to make them cheer first. We got to make them do that, So.
Exactly. And I mean, to continue on a little bit about the All-Star talk, it's like the same thing with like the Devin snub, like not getting in the rookie sophomore competition thing.
Yeah, over like Tate. That's the one that bugged me the most. It's like I like Tate. Every time that I've seen him, I've liked him, but like you can't be on the last place team and or I guess I should say, like, it surprises me that somebody from the last place team in the West gets representation over somebody else. You know what I mean? Like that surprised me.
And then like I personally am not a fan of the G League players getting put into this. They're not NBA players. They have not been drafted. I haven't looked up all 4 of the names, but for the most part, if I'm not mistaken, those 4 names are people that are on the G League Ignite team waiting to get drafted next year. So, like, in my personal opinion, that's a thing where it's like, why are we letting people that aren't in the NBA be in the NBA?
So
like, do NBA
so
things?
It's just from that Ignite team, or it can be from any.
It's just from the Ignite team. It's just from that one G League Ignite team, which is the NBA's G League team.
Yeah.
So
I'm not. Now that you said that, it does kind of change how I think about it a little.
That just frustrates me, because that's 4 extra spots that should be going to players in the NBA, not to guys that are gonna get drafted.
Or at the very least, like, I wouldn't have minded if it's 4 G League players from around the league. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that too. Like,
that's
if
different.
If you're trying to give the spotlight to young G League players, that
exactly.
Are, like I mean, because like in that aspect, right? Like, Josh Primo's been putting up crazy stats in Austin. I'm not telling you to, like, that's what you need to look at, kind of thing. But like, that's just one example. You're seeing guys in Austin put up really good numbers, and nobody's gonna get. No, like, you're still not getting recognized for it, even though we're gonna recognize the G League.
And I get the league's pushing of the. I like it from the point of view of wanting to give G League players some shine. I don't like it from the point of view of it can only come from this NBA team.
Yeah,
I don't
this
really like that.
NBA team that recruits players that aren't, like those guys are in the G League to go to the draft,
Yeah.
They're on that G League Ignite team to go to the draft. That's how Jalen Green made it to the NBA. So it's like, like I like that. I do like seeing players in the G League like that. I like seeing like alternatives to going to college, from going to
Do you
college.
know where the G League the Ignite team is based out of?
I do not know where the G League Ignite team is based out of, but I to continue my point real quick, just I like that young people can get out of high school, and instead of going to college, if they have the talent, you go into the G League and you get ready to go to the draft like that, right?
Mhm.
That's not a bad idea, but they shouldn't get rewarded for going to the G League and then
Well,
being able to participate in.
and let me just say it this way. I'm not opposed to G League Ignite players going to this All-Star Rising Challenge game or whatever it's called. I think I am opposed to it only being from that team though. Like that it's like okay, well, I don't know what are they, so they're based out of Walnut Creek, California. So it's like I don't know, like it's a good idea, but why is it exclusive to that team? Like I guess would be my
Yeah,
thing. You know what I mean?
again, it's to me, it's always just going to be about how, like, why are we letting people that aren't in the NBA get to participate in the NBA thing?
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
not.
I again like from that point of view, it's like, well, they want to be in the NBA. They're on the path to the NBA, and this is just a showcase of like, hey, like
But
let's
what
give
is
them
what is
one day.
what is doing that, like, that's not going to raise any draft stock. That's not going to do anything, but to maybe get somebody's name out there a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah,
And in
yeah.
that
I
manner,
mean, and it
I
is.
can't.
It is. Imagine if Jalen Green went out there and balled out with all these rookies and all these,
Yeah,
So I can see the appeal, and I do think that overall it's going to be a positive for the Ignite players. And I don't
yeah,
want to take anything away from them. I just think that if the goal is to highlight the developmental league that you've created, let it be open to everybody. You know what I mean? Like pull people from everybody. And now those four spots. Now you got all the teams working hard for those four spots. If you're on the Ignite, maybe you're working hard. Maybe you get more people recruited to the Ignite team because they know that there's an avenue. Hey, I can be if I work real hard on this team, I could be playing with the rookie of the year in a couple months. At least for a day and show out. I mean, like that's
yeah.
so.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. I think I am a little too salty that my guy Devin Vassell doesn't get into the rookie sophomore showcase.
Hmm. Hmm.
It I think that he does a lot for us. Even if the stats don't really put it out there. But again, going back to what you were talking about earlier, we were talking about how we were going to work with Juancho, how we were going to work with Dad. One thing that is coming up is the trade deadline. On February 10th, the trade deadline will have come forward, and we'll see if any teams have made any trades. The likes of, like, James Harden and Brooklyn right now. There's talks about that. There's talks about us trying to, or just like fielding calls. We talked a little bit about that last week, though. But Chris, is there anything that, like, you like? Any type of trades, any type of movement that you're kind of trying to see? Is there any specific teams that you might be trying to pull some guys from?
I mean, so I like the idea, like I said, about just like it felt like Zach Collins was good relief. Um, could we potentially get somebody who can at least see the court for a few spot minutes and play some of those things again? And obviously, when we talk about making moves, it's like okay, it's gonna be us giving up like Thaddeus Young, like that. You know what I mean? Or operating on that level. I'm not really trying to see us. I know people. There's talks about the people are interested in Jakob. It would take a big package to get a guy like Dejounte Murray and blah blah blah. Like I'm not really operating on that. I'm operating on like we're keeping all those guys. Even a guy like Lonnie, I would prefer to keep him. I would prefer to negotiate a new contract that's more apt to his contributions first than trying to trade him and all that other kind of stuff. But I will say, like, okay, so Portland, they just did their big trade and it feels very much like they are taking steps backwards. It feels like they're gonna let Dame just sit on his injury and let's just get bad for the last half of the season, and hopefully that's gonna give us some. We got Anthony Simons. We got a good draft pick coming up because we're gonna be bad for the last half, and we'll start there for you, Dame, and we'll try to use all this money that we're getting for our tax purposes to get somebody to help you. Like that's kind of what it feels like they're doing, right? So, I do see that they got Larry Nance Jr. on their roster at 29 years old. He's making 10 million this year and 9 million next year. So I don't know, like flipping a Thad for Larry Nance. Their contracts are pretty similar. Maybe we might have to get something extra from them. But that could be like in a position where Thaddeus Young is not playing. Larry Nance could play a few minutes. He's bigger than him. You know what I mean? Like
if we definitely if we made a trade for a guy like Larry Nance, that's like, to me, that's like Kata's position is taken right there. You know?
yeah.
Because Kate, I mean, Larry's a very solid, very good role player for. He was very good in Cleveland, and then has been pretty solid in Portland. You know, it just obviously a guy like Larry Nance Jr. isn't going to translate wins without the likes of Damian Lillard, CJ.
But again, like I'm not the same way that I'm not operating up on that level of trading our impact players. Well, I'm just trying to in my head it's just a bolstering kind of move.
Yeah.
And it's not going to translate to huge dividends for us. I mean, it could prove valuable in terms of a depth point of view if you lose Jock Landale for concussion protocols for a second time this year. That's something to start to think about. You know what I mean? So having a guy like Larry Nance, well, now he can fill in some of those depth minutes. You know what I mean? He probably will come in and be just as good or better than Drew Eubanks will be. So, like, you know, that would be something that I think. And on top of that, we'd be taking $9 million off of Portland's books for next year. They would take on Thad Williams for the rest of this year. Obviously, Thad doesn't want to go to Portland, or all the talks have been that he could help a contender, and that's not what would be happening if he goes to Portland. So from that point of view, it probably doesn't look very good, and he's probably like, hell no, I don't want to do that, but it could help us, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the only thing that's a little unfortunate is just how late in the year Zach Collins came back, because this just that's another person that we had to keep into account. Like, you know, he can fill in these roles in that 4 or in that 5 and 4 position. So
Yeah,
it's like, you know, like when Jock is healthy, like, are we gonna see Zach and Jock on the floor at the same time? Is that gonna be the backups? You know, or are we just gonna see Zach at the 5? You know, like are we done seeing Jock and Drew on as our backup bigs because Zach is the backup big? You know, and
we'll see.
that's just like, that's answers that we don't know, that we have one game before the trade deadline to, you know, maybe figure something out if we want to in terms of the big man rotations.
Yeah, okay, so and I feel like in terms of Zach, he's pretty versatile. I think that we will see times where he's the big 5, and we got a guy like Keldon Johnson at the 4. Maybe there's times where we have like Keita Bates-Diop at the 4 and Zach at the 5. I would love to see at least once to maybe 3 or 4 times this year. I would love to see what a Zach Collins at the 4 and Jakob Poeltl at the 5 looks like, just to see, you know, can we use our size against people, you know, as a weapon. We don't have to stick with it because I feel like that would be. I don't mind if we do it a lot next year, but, you know, experiment, see how it goes, and blah blah blah. But I mean, again, like I think like a guy like Larry Nance, you know, he even pushes a guy like Juancho down a little bit, which is fine with me. You know what I mean? I don't think Juancho. We didn't bring him in here with the expectation, with any real expectation. So he can be malleable in that regard. So I don't know. I like a move like that. I don't want to give up really anybody. So in my opinion, it's like Thad's the one movable piece. And that's it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That would probably be the only way I would go, is to kind of bolster up that 4 position again.
Me too. I don't think there's really much talk for us to have when it comes to trades, just because even like the dad situation just seems very dire. Like it feels like it's going to be an extra year of or not an extra, but just like another year of buyouts.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, I mean, I wonder. Never mind. I was gonna say, I wonder, like, is there a way that we can, if is there a way we can move him to a team like Portland, and then maybe they execute the buyout? You know what I mean?
yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
Like,
and I hope that that's the kind of thing that we'd be able to do, but I don't know. It's just like I don't think I'm seeing anything where we're gonna trade. We're like it's. I have a feeling that by the end of this week, on Friday after the trade deadline, we're gonna get a report that says Thaddeus Young has been bought out by the San Antonio Spurs. Like,
and so again, like, and I'm just like staring at Portland's books. Like, I feel like it would help them, right? Because if we traded them, he's I
it just
think
gives them cap flexibility, right?
exactly. So, he's on the books right now for 14 million. If they give us that Larry Nance is at 10. So they give us something else. Imagine if we can get Larry Nance in like a second for Thaddeus Young. You know what I mean? It's like, I'll take that. And then if they buy him out, or if they buy him out, that's that 14 million that they're paying. But then again, they don't have to worry about that. They just got rid of Norman Powell. There's rumors about CJ McCollum not staying around past this deadline. But other than that, like, they are clean. They got Damian Lillard on the books, and that's it. Then they got a team option for Nasir Little, and then I guess they got to pay Anthony Simons. But I
Yeah,
mean,
they'll have to get ready to start paying him here soon, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
But I
so
don't know. Little thing. I think that is something that they could do. We had talked also the other day about like Ingles, right? Ingles is season-ending injury. Like, is there anything that we can kind of pull from Utah?
yeah, I definitely liked the idea. Whenever it came to me, whenever I saw it on Twitter, I liked the idea of just trading Thad for Joe Ingles in like a second, maybe a first, maybe a late first round pick. Like if that's like what they're like in a sense we're getting Joe Ingles because we have the money, right? We have the money to be able to pick up a Joe Ingles. Um and we're giving them that roster spot like that they can use Thad Young for.
Yeah, yeah,
Um so then, maybe they're expecting that this year's first round pick is going to be a 24, 25 first round pick. So then they're willing to just give us the first round pick for Thad Young in that sense.
yeah.
Um
Exactly. And they're in a position where they're trying to win right now. Exactly. So
exactly.
they're more likely to do some of that. And on top of that, no offense to us, the Spurs, but Joe Ingles might not want to play here. He doesn't have to. He could just come here and rehab and then go somewhere else, or go back to
Exactly.
Utah. You know what I mean?
And
Like,
I definitely don't want to re-up Joe Ingles $13 million next
yeah,
year.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
we're
It literally
I
could
don't
just
think
be
San
a
Antonio takes on that team option. Like we pick him up this year, we let him rehab. That's in a sense that's just the roster spot gone for this year, but then next year we decline the team option, and then we're
he
we're good.
he doesn't even have an option. He's just at 14 million, and he's free.
Oh, okay. See, I thought he did have 1+1. I thought it was like this year and then next year as a team, but either way, that's still like I feel like that's to me that's the prime talks that we need to have. That's like like we need to find the teams that are literally like struggling and trying to get somebody, you
Yeah,
know?
that's another way to kind of build goodwill. Like, I'm not getting anything that's going to help me this year. I'm just going to rehab your player, and then you guys can continue your push. You know what I mean? And then again, like, if you really wanted Ingles, well, he's free. You can go get him next year. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
we're just gonna house him for the last couple months. You know what I mean? And I think Goran. I read. I think it was. I don't know where I heard, but I heard that Goran Dragic is like not even with his team. He's like rehabbing at another team's facilities, at like Miami's facilities or something.
Yeah. Well, so
Which is crazy. So Ingles, you don't even got to leave Utah. Just stay in Utah. Keep doing your thing.
the thing with Goran though is that because he's in Toronto, like his team's Toronto,
Uh huh.
so they're
Oh,
just letting
about like
him.
traveling internationally or something.
Yeah, they're just letting him stay in the States,
Mm-hmm.
and then I assume he probably still has real estate in
Miami.
Miami. He's
Yeah.
been in he's been in Miami for the last couple of years, so I'm sure he still has some stuff there, and it's
Yeah.
just like probably just his natural thing to go back to.
Well, there you go, Ingles.
But
You don't even got to leave Utah.
yeah, and I honestly I think it's perfect. I feel like that would kind of be a perfect deal for us. I think I'm trying to think about like in a sense those 3 through 6 seeds on both sides of the conference that like know that if a guy like Thad Young gets bought out by San Antonio, they're not going to that team. He's not going to that team. He's going to go to the 1 seed, to the 2 seed. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he's going to go to the very profitable position. You know, and so then like even like a team like the Lakers. You know, like people like a team like Utah knows that a guy like Thad Young could just be like, well, I just want to go play with LA now. I could just go help LA. You know.
Yeah.
Why would Utah want to let Thad Young do that when they could get him and they could use him, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like the little bit of trade leverage that we do have when it comes to Thad Young. This is the last week, you know. So I feel like this is the week that we're gonna have a decision. We're gonna see Thad Young get traded away, or we're just gonna see him get bought out. I feel like that's all gonna happen this week. I'm gonna call that by next week's time, Thad Young is no longer a San Antonio Spur. That is my take.
Yeah. I can see it.
But there is Spurs basketball. You know, there is still Spurs basketball that we're gonna watch. You know, and that Spurs basketball is going to be part of the Rodeo road trip. So, Chris, we've seen it every year. Every single year we have our Rodeo road trip. For me, every single year, this is the part of the year that I like just dread the most. Um, I don't think I've been a part of a single San Antonio road trip that was that good. I feel like these last couple years have been pretty bad, but I'm gonna name out the teams that we're gonna play against in this rodeo road trip. We'll kind of get like a general gist on how we feel about the rodeo road trip, and then we'll just break that down to the week. You know. So in this rodeo road trip, we started off by playing against Cleveland, then going all the way to Atlanta, then going to New Orleans, which is part of a back-to-back. Then one day off to go against Chicago, another day off to go against OKC, a whole week off to then go against Washington, but have a back-to-back to play against Miami, take a day off, and play against Memphis. What are you thinking about this rodeo road trip, Chris?
Dang. Sorry, just trying to stare at all the opponents again. I mean, like you said, I mean, recently our road trips haven't been in terms of like coming home with a solid record. It's been the opposite. Whereas in years past, it's always been a twofold, right? It's been a moment for us to kind of bond together a little bit and kind of be a little bit more cohesive. But hopefully that starts to translate into you go on the road, you start to learn how to win games on the road. You come back feeling really good and all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be tough. I mean, you got the Pelicans, you got the Thunder, you got the Wizards as like the ones that jump out to you as like, okay, these are for sure winnable. And then you got Cavs are playing good. Hawks are up and down, but you know that they just have the firepower. Bulls, we played well against Chicago already. It would be great to play well against them and go get a win again. Miami, I feel like this past Miami game, it started to devolve into like what the last like preseason game was, where it was just like Tyler Hero dropping us off every chance he got. So I don't know that we could feel a little undermanned. I guess it just depends on our health. Assuming we're going in 100%. We're not having to really like do big changes to our roster. I like our chances to be competitive in just about all of these games, and I know that that's not like that different from like the way that I talk about the Spurs all year. Uh, um, I don't know if I can give you like I don't know if you are we trying to do a win loss like right now for the 8 games?
I feel like we should probably wait just because we don't have the other two brothers on the pod right now. Um, yeah, we'll be 3 games into the road trip by that point. This time next week, but I think we see how these first 3 games go, and then we'll have our gist. We'll be able to like look at how these 3 games are. 2 very competitive teams, and then one team that we should win. In my opinion, right? Um, that's kind of a spoiler for my predictions, but um, like we we'll be able to like look at that kind of stuff, and then come this time next week, we'll be able to have a full like, all right, this is how we feel about the road trip so far. This is where we can go from there. You know what I mean?
Well, let me just say. So there's 8 games. There's 8 games. So if we were to split those 8 and come back 4-4, first of all, I think that probably would be considered a success. From the way that the year's been going. So if we could split, that would mean between Pelicans. Let me think about it this way: if we have the first 2 games, which is Cavaliers Hawks, if we can split split those 2, then you got your next 4. Pelicans, Bulls, Thunder, Wizards. There's 3 winnable games there. So if you can split them and go 2-2 at best, okay, fine. That feels doable. Then you got your last 2 games, Miami and Memphis. If you can split those 2. So it's like if you break them down that way, 2, 4, and 2, it feels like we can get a split or maybe even better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you follow that. But me just staring at the schedule right now, looking at it, that's kind of how my brain broke it down.
Yeah. No. I get what you're saying. Like it's like that's definitely you definitely have like the right thought process to kind of like break it down. Let's not just take this whole thing like, in a sense, let's not take this road trip as a one whole chunk and think about it like that. You're like breaking it down into good pieces, and that's like it helps to gauge their opponents like that. But I don't know. I still think the road trips always end up like you just start seeing your guys get a little gassed. The biggest thing for me is the fact that we'll play Memphis at the end, and that's like, oh man, like after 7 straight games of road games, then we're gonna play against Memphis, and that's just gonna kill us. You know?
The last time we played them, it was the second night of a back-to-back, and you know what I mean. It's like it sucks when we have to see them at those points.
And it's just like to me, it's like, all right, well, when is the team gonna go from like, all right, we're full of energy, we're ready for this road trip, to hey, we're gassed, you know?
Well, we got a lot of rest from February 4th to February 9th, 5 days. Again, we do have that back-to-back though. Again, 11 to 12, the Hawks to Pelicans. So that that does it changes the way that like how I was breaking it down, like 2-4-2, because there is like that overlapping back-to-back. Let's say so from the 9th through the 16th. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in 7 nights. So it's a lot. It's a lot, and then you get 3 games in, I guess, 4 nights. Damn, yeah. So if you look at it that way, it's a lot of basketball. You know what I mean? So no,
it's a lot of basketball.
I get what you're saying for sure.
Because even like in chunking it, especially with that 1 week in between, which granted that 1 week is nice. It's nice to see that we'll have a whole week to rest, but 5 games like, and then 5 games with 1 week of rest to then 3 games all on the road. You just have to think like you kind of think about it in that manner, and it's just like, oh man, there's just a little, that this year is going to be tough. That this road trip's going to be tough.
Yeah, and like I said, like the Heat, the Grizzlies, the Bulls, the Cavs, the Hawks, like they're all rolling in their own. They have their own ups and downs, but they're all pretty solid teams. All of those teams, and like you said earlier, I think off camera, like OKC, they make us work every time we play them. Washington hopefully will be a game where they're a little bit in disarray right now. So hopefully that can benefit us a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But like either way, I'm so excited to see what this road trip's gonna do. I think the thing for me is like I feel like we're all gonna be excited to see what Zach Collins brings to the table. Um, like I said earlier about the trade deadline, maybe we do have a move. Maybe we're seeing something different. Most likely no, but there's a chance. There's nothing's ever guaranteed that our team stays the same.
Yeah.
But but like I said, we have that whole road trip as a whole. We were able to kind of break it down a little bit to talk, see like how we're viewing it as a big chunk. But now we can break it down to look at the week, right? To be able to start getting into the weekly predictions. So going into this week, like we don't play till Wednesday, so a lot of days without basketball for us Spurs fans coming into this month. But we don't play till Wednesday, and when we do play, we play against Cleveland at 6. Then we'll fly to Atlanta to play them on Friday at 6:30, to then go all the way out to New Orleans to play them at 6 on Saturday. So Chris, like I was saying earlier, I think that's 2 competitive games and 1 game that's not as that should be a game that we take care of business. It's the start of the road trip. We shouldn't be nearly as gassed. How you feeling about this week?
Yeah, and all East Coast early games. Well, I guess New Orleans not like it's that far east, but 6 p.m., 6:30, and 6 is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So early games. Like you said, hopefully we got a lot of energy coming at the beginning of this road trip. I like the idea of us being able to take care of the Pelicans. In my opinion, I think it would be awesome if we could go 2-1 on the week. If we could find a way to beat Atlanta and New Orleans on the back-to-back. Not to say that we can't beat Cleveland, but Cleveland I feel is just a little bit more like, again, even though I think the Hawks are playing better now than they've played at the beginning of the year. I haven't watched too much Atlanta though. But it just feels like Cleveland is a little bit more stable in terms of like the things that they've been doing well. They've just continued to do them well. They kind of understand who they are. Plus, I mean, they got size, right? And we've said it before. Like that tends to be the thing that gets us a little bit. So let me pull up. I think they just had like that real close game, against the Hornets. Jared Allen with 29 points and 22 rebounds. They still have Evan Mobley, plus Kevin Love. I mean,
they have a lot of size, in Cleveland. Real quick, Chris, if you can,
go ahead.
If you can look up the injury reports to just see what it's looking like for Cleveland, Atlanta, and New Orleans.
Yeah. We just got Collins back. That's a little bit more depth, from our point of view. So.
That's some good size that hopefully I like I said earlier with the Collins stuff, hopefully he's not necessarily like I'm not asking him to do too much, not asking him to not do what he was just doing in Houston. Like I really like what I saw in Houston is like the thing that like let's just see that throughout the rest of this year. You know what I mean? Don't try to overwork yourself. Don't try to play bigger than what you are. Just play inside yourself, man. Just keep making the right passes, playing the right plays, doing the right pops, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, because I mean that's what they're doing too. It's not like obviously Jared Allen with 22 rebounds, like that's an imposing kind of performance. But like, and I can't speak really like down on Mobley either. But he's still learning, you know what I mean, and all that kind of stuff. So if we can just kind of stem the tide with that, and like we said, we're a little stronger after the trade deadline. We'll see. Cleveland's IR as of February 1st, Lauri Markkanen was out with an ankle injury, but it said that he is improving and has resumed light basketball work. So I'm not sure if we'll see him back, by the time they play the Spurs. And then Darius Garland is questionable for tonight's game against Indiana. So that's like 3 or 4 more days to possibly get him back. So maybe no Garland. Who's running their point guard duties right now? Is it Rajon Rondo or who?
I'd assume it'd be Rajon Rondo.
Right.
I don't like their guards are like Darius Garland, Rajon Rondo, um, Ricky Rubio, unless he
Which
got
no,
traded.
no. Remember,
No,
Rubio
he's
got
still
hurt season ending.
yeah, he's still in Cleveland though. That's like the thing that I was like thinking about.
Yeah. Which maybe he gets traded, or can he get traded?
I'm not too sure actually. I'm not too
Uh,
sure.
yeah, maybe that's one of those like salary cap kind of trades. As of February 5th, which is more recent, Atlanta is day to day with Gallinari, who's questionable for tonight. John Collins is day to day, but it doesn't say why. And Lou Williams is day to day, also questionable for tonight against the Mavericks with hamstring tension. So um, a few guys to kind of keep your eye on. Also, Gallinari and John Collins, kind of, but Gallinari's been his name's been floated around a little bit with the trade rumors as well. So possible some moving pieces with Atlanta also.
Yeah, and then New Orleans.
Let's check New Orleans real quick.
Yeah. So I mean, with those at least, like, the one thing that I will say in terms of us playing and like coming into this trade deadline is maybe we are playing against a stronger Cleveland team or a stronger Atlanta. I doubt we're playing against a stronger New Orleans. I think they're probably fine with where they're at because they're not even playing Zion. So um, those other two teams, maybe we are coming into this week. Like right now, we're talking about what we see, but maybe they do have more pieces. Just like how you're saying, we could have more pieces.
Yeah. And then for New Orleans, like you said, I think their roster's probably going to be pretty set in stone, as well as like their IR stuff. Zion's still out. They have a point guard that's been out with a torn ACL. But then as of February 3rd, they had Garrett Temple and Willie Hernan Gomez both out with nothing other than just that they're out. February 4th, they had Didi Luzada, small forward. I guess he had surgery on his left knee. He's also out. And then Josh Hart is day to day questionable for tonight's game in Houston. So Josh Hart, it looks like most likely will probably be around by the time they play the Spurs. But more to be, I guess, like it's more of the expected with New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, so that's good. I think for the most part we can look at this week and look at the competition and kind of know that we're getting most of these guys at full strength, a chance that we're not getting Cleveland at full strength without the likes of Lowry and possibly without Darius Garland.
Yeah.
But like I mean, I still think that the week's still just a little bit on like the clear side. Like we know what we're looking at. We know what we're looking for, what games that we're trying to win.
Yeah. I will say before you go on, like the fact that we have a lot of practice between now and Cleveland, hopefully like Cleveland is a little bit we get a chance to kind of practice a little bit, and then B, we get a chance to focus in like, hey, our first opponent is Cleveland. This is what they like to do. Let's get off on this road trip on a good foot and kind of have a little bit more like pointed attack directly at the Cavs.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got you. I got you. I think there's a good chance for us to stay competitive this week and not. I would very much be disappointed if any of these games are like blowouts.
Yeah.
I guess a controlled defeat isn't the worst thing in the world. Like if we're like in like a 5 to 10 range, but they just keep like having like that one up over us, that's not the worst thing in the world. But like, if we're not at least a little competitive this week in all three of these games, I'd be a little disappointed. But Chris, I'll restate these things, and then I want to hear your prediction on the week. So once again on Wednesday, a couple days from now, on Wednesday, we will be flying out to Cleveland to play against the Cavs at 6. Then we'll be flying out to Atlanta to play the Hawks at 6:30 on Friday. Then finally going to New Orleans to play the Pelicans at 6 on Saturday. Chris, what's your predictions on the week?
I think I'll probably end up saying 2-1. I think I'll stick to what I had originally said, which is even though there's that overlapping back to back, if we can split between Cleveland and Atlanta, and then New Orleans is a winnable game. I can see us coming out focused and getting a good, like, this is a good team win against a good team in Cleveland. And then not necessarily coming out flat against Atlanta, but now it's the second game. It's the first night of a back to back. If you get down against a team like Atlanta, which you can, because a guy like Trey can just kind of shoot you out of a game real quick, you know what I mean? Trey hits you for one spurt in the third, and all of a sudden Pop is like, well, I'm just going to sit my guys because we got another game tomorrow and blah, blah, blah. So I can see it kind of going that way also. So, yeah, I'll say 2-1, beat Cleveland, lose to Atlanta, beat New Orleans.
Yeah. I think I think that's a solid enough gesture, I guess, for the week. For me, Cleveland's always, or the size that Cleveland has is a little intimidating. Evan Mobley is still a guy that you can't necessarily like count out just because they don't have Darius Garland. Doesn't mean Evan Mobley and Jared Allen won't pick up his slack.
Yeah.
So for me, Cleveland is that game that I'm like, I don't know about that one. I think we should be competitive. They are without a little bit of depth, and we did just gain Zach Collins, so there is a good chance that the game changes a lot from what we had the last time we played against Cleveland.
And I definitely am, when I say like, oh, let's go and beat Cleveland, I am putting a little bit of a test on, like, well, we got a little bit bigger. They have a lot of size. I want to see what we got. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
So I'm putting a little bit of that responsibility on our big man for this next game.
For sure. But I don't think I agree with you on beating Cleveland and losing to Atlanta. I do want to see the split. I think I'm gonna also go 2-1 on the week to say that we'll probably lose to Cleveland, but be able to beat Atlanta and New Orleans back to back.
And I could see it going that way for sure as well.
Yeah. I think we definitely need to just take advantage of the fact that Atlanta is not like 100% competent. I guess I wouldn't even say competent. They're competent. They're just not. They don't have it together. They don't have it together right now, and they're picking it up. But this is our chance to be able to take a win when they're not there 100%.
Yep, I agree.
So for me, that's the thing. Our brothers Josh and Chris Josh and Juan both messaged me telling me that they're going 2-1 on the week. So that's our predictions for the week. To look at the updated scoreboard real quick, Josh was the one person who went 3-1, and the rest of us went 2-2. We finished the week 1-3, so Josh is now at -6, Chris at -4, Juan at -1, and me still in first place with only 1 point.
Yeah, it's all right. This is almost like not like golf in the sense that you want to be negative, but it's almost like who can be the closest to zero, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be, you're not going to rank up super in the positive. It's just, can you be positive in general?
Yeah. No, either way though, I mean, I think this scoreboard this year has been pretty cool. It'll definitely be interesting to see what we can try to do for next season to add to it, to be able to add more variety and fun into how we end these shows, But Chris, we had our week ahead of us. We had a nice solid talk about Zach Collins being back, as well as the trade deadline. Is there anything else you want to add on to this week?
I don't think I really have anything else in my notes. Let me pull it back up real quick. I guess just the idea of Jock and Jakob. Hopefully those guys are staying healthy with their hits to the head and all that kind of stuff. I guess everybody, Derek White takes hits every single game. We saw Dejounte and Jakob miss multiple games already. So just I would like to see us healthy for the rest of the year. I don't want to have to keep losing games on the account of like we're missing guys. I'm okay if we're losing games because we're learning and we're not as good as we want to be. But just want our guys to stay healthy. But yeah, I'm excited for the road trip. I have an idea of something for the four of us, but I'll say that off camera.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds good. I'm excited to see what our guys are gonna do. I'm still trying to keep a close lens on Devin Vassell because he's his stuff has been a lot quieter. Like I think a lot of people. I know Josh has been bringing it up a little bit more recently, but people don't necessarily talk about Devin whenever he's in his slumps. Personally, for me, the biggest thing with Devin is when he's in his slumps. The difference between like him being in his slump or Lonnie being in a slump, KJ being in a slump, is that he has defense. He has a lot better defense than both Lonnie and Kelton. I'm not telling you that Lonnie and Kelton are bad defenders, but I'm telling you that Devin is pretty much a great defender.
Mhm.
So when he's not hitting shots, he's still out there playing defense. He's still out there being a positive for the team because of his defense, and that's just like the thing that I want to bring up, that I want to see Devin be able to add it all together, to be able to play solid on both offense and defense. But he's just like right now kind of going through a little bit of slump, So let's just see what our guy Devin Vassell can do.
As is a lot of our guys, that the Golden State game was tough to watch. Everybody struggling from the field, at least for jumpers or whatever. And even like the flip side of that, when it came to the Houston game, Pop said is like, well, we just had a good shooting night. You know what I mean? And so we see the good, we see the bad. I'll continue to support every single one of those young guys every day, even Lonnie, even whoever's going through their slumps. You know what I mean? Like we want to see them succeed. We know that they can, so we'll keep suiting up with them, every game.
For sure. But with that being said, guys, make sure that y'all do follow us on all 4 platforms of Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, where we do go live at 10 a.m. Every single Sunday. Make sure you do catch us next Sunday, February 13th. There's definitely going to be plenty of Spurs talks every single week for us to do. So as well, make sure that you do follow us on Twitter at Heroes Half Court, where we do talk about Spurs basketball on the near daily. And if you couldn't catch us all the way this week, I know we went pretty short just because it was just us two, and there wasn't a crazy too much amount to talk about this week. But you'll be able to watch the VODs. You'll be able to catch us right after everything's done on all 4 platforms. But with that being said, guys, I hope everybody has a wonderful and blessed Sunday. We are out.